boxing can be funny at times. And as we look at a recent story that came out featuring none other than Keith Thurman, Mr. Keith Thurman, one time. And we decided to take a little bit of time out to talk about Keith, who recently did a extensive interview with Marcos Villegas from Fight Hype. And Keith, ever the political man, never really answered a true question about himself, which is when time, for one time. Thurman is really truly missing his calling. We know that the former unified welterweight champion has been out of the ring far more than he's been in the ring lately. But one thing that I figured out about Mr. Thurman, that missed calling is either politics or being a commentary analyst for boxing. The way that he articulates his thoughts regarding fighters, what he assesses in the ring, and what you do as a person who can break down what you're witnessing is excellent. He's one of the very best. And it also explains another thing about him, about his ring inactivity. Mr. Thurman has not been in the ring since February of 2022, when he last took on Mario Barrios and won a unanimous decision in that fight when it took place in Las Vegas. Thurman seems more content with kind of hanging on the outskirts. He was recently trying to put himself in position to get a fight with Earl Spence, as he also fights for PBC. There's something going on with PBC fighters, and Stormy doesn't want to get into those aspects right now because I'm not as versed as some of the other brothers in the community. But I will say this about Mr. Thurman. Prior to the Barrios fight, his fight before that was a July 2019 split decision loss to Manny Pacquiao. Now just think about how long ago that was. If you think about it now, the fact that he wanted to position himself and get an opportunity against Earl Spence Jr. for the Unified Champions titles, you have to wonder, like, what has he really done to receive that type of grace? Talking is not going to get it, though he is an eloquent spokesman. But also, as I listened to his interview with Fight Hype, link will be in the description, Thurman has really convinced me that his love is not for a sport of boxing as far as participating as a fighter anymore. And that's okay, because if you listen to how he speaks, you have to also understand that one of the number one reasons that he hasn't been in the ring is because of the way he thinks. Thurman is definitely a safety first guy. Now that doesn't mean he's a scary cat or anything like that. He is a warrior in that ring, but he thinks about the long road, what's down the line. And what's down the line for him is something that's not boxing. And that's okay. We're okay with that. But please let us know when you want to return to the ring against quality opposition without pricing yourself out of fights, because realistically, due to your inactivity, due to the lack of quality opponents, you have to build yourself back up, Mr. Thurman. Now, listening to him talk about recent fighters like the Devin Haney, Vasily Lomachenko fight, or Tank Davis when he took on Ryan Garcia. He definitely spoke well about how these big fights happening gets the juices flowing, and it's exciting as a fan, as a spectator of the sport, how it can generate the interest of the masses, and he loves that as well. When speaking of his contemporaries in the welterweight division, he spoke well of he spoke well of Crawford and of Earl Spence, reminiscing about when he and Crawford came through the amateurs together, but when he was champion, when he held the titles, he was very dismissive of Crawford. And that was something that parlayed with his dismissive approach toward Earl Spence. He considered them juniors to him at that time, and he sunned them at that time from his perspective. And it let me know something else about Thurman. The ego is intact 1000%. And if he would just get in the ring and face off against that type of opposition, we could truly find out who and what he is as a fighter. He even spoke and ridiculed the fact of him not being able to take body shots. But he also noted that he's never been down from a body shot, but at the same time pointed out other fighters like Oscar De La Hoya, who was failed by a body shot from Bernard Hopkins. Thurman is quite a smart individual, maybe a little bit too smart for the sport to participate in it as a fighter. He may be a good guy toward setting things up for other fighters, future fighters, helping to guide their careers, being a spokesperson. I could actually see him in that line of work. That's when the time comes that you'll see him at his best. I truly believe, due to all the inactivity that he has suffered, his best days in boxing are far behind him. And he's still a young man in his early 30s. But the other fighters are left to sort things out. And I do believe they will sort things out, and he will not be a part of that process. And it's unfortunate, because when Thurman did hold the titles, there were opportunities for him to face the likes of Earl Spence and Terrence Bud Crawford, but he elected not to do those things. And after being stripped from one title and then losing the other to Manny Pacquiao, you really look at things and you say, wow, what a squandered opportunity this man has. Another thing is the fact that when he started to touch the bag, his principles toward the sport changed a bit. Thurman once spoke at a press conference after a fight that he wanted his fights to be on regular TV so people could see him show his wares and display his talents. After he came into a little bit of change, he began to change. And therefore, the new adopted mindset was that his value was a great deal higher to himself than it actually was. And that is unfortunate, because there are so many fights that could have been made with Thurman's involvement. And now he's just on the sidelines, waiting for some type of an opportunity. But the opportunity is behind the mic. I would much rather hear him speak on fights and what he's watching than some of the current guys who I will not name, but are on the networks of DAZN, Top Rank, and even Showtime. Thurman would be a welcome addition to being able to exercise his visions of the sport of boxing and his assessments of talent available in the sport of boxing. And I'll tell you something, if you listen to him. It's right there for him. That, or as I said earlier, politics. That's what it seems to be at this time. And I ain't mad at him. But he should just go ahead and move away from the sport. The inactivity can hurt you, even more than an opponent, because you'll get in there and you'll realize your reflexes aren't what they once was. Your timing is no longer there. And you can see the openings, but you can't pull the trigger. That's what it does. Father Time is undefeated. And Mr. One Time is once defeated. So if he were to walk away from the sport as far as participating as a contending fighter, that one loss to Manny Pacquiao won't look too bad. Thurman is 5'9.5" and has a 69-inch reach. And he's heavy-handed. The once moniker One Time was attributed to the guys he would get out of there early, before the distance. But as the quality of opposition increased, he began to go to more decisions. Or was it the fact that he was beginning to look at his opponents and realize he didn't want to subject himself to the dangers of possibly being stopped himself? Remember, I said this man is very intelligent, and he may have chosen a lot like Hector Camacho did, who once went through his opponents like a buzzsaw. But after his crossing the path of Edwin Rosario, elected to become a safety first fighter. That may have been the story with Thurman. And I believe the ego is so great that he wouldn't admit to that. But more than likely, that's what it is. But what do you think? Let's discuss it further. This is Stormy B Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what your thoughts are when it comes down to Keith Thurman, One Time. And will he ever answer the question, when time? Will he get in there again? Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.